Beloved brothers and sisters, yes, I've kept this knowledge about Jesus the Christ till this time, which is the Christmas, said to be the birth of Jesus the Christ. Yes. There are a few things to clear about who he is and what he represented. In the first place, there are people who think he didn't even exist and that everything was created. Well, see, in actual fact, he came, he existed. But, the word but has to be there. The very person that now we call Jesus the Christ has been misrepresented. His very personality is not the same as what is presented. His teachings are not the same as what is reaching the masses of people. Always, since time, truth has always been shocking. People get along with mixture of truth and untruth. And it's always difficult to separate the truth from the untruth. It is like this. When you see a piece of wood in the night, or rope, just some rope, you may call it a snake until light is thrown on it. Then you see, oh, it is a rope, not a snake. When light is not thrown on the whole situation, then what we call it can be wrong. Who we think he is totally wrong. Such topics as God. Does God exist? Now, it's just like the example I just gave you. See, the piece of wood is something, or the piece of rope is something that is real, but calling it a snake is unreal, it's untrue. So there is something, and people call that thing God. But how they understand it is wrong. So when light is thrown on that subject, then you can know the truth about that. The same way as you throw light on the rope and it reveals that it is a rope, not a snake. So definitions are always so wrong. And if somebody comes to correct it, he throws light on the whole thing and reveals that it is a rope, still people find it difficult to believe that it is a rope but not a snake, because they have all along believed that that thing there is a snake. So the light of truth has to be thrown on the subject of God, on the subject of Jesus the Christ, on the subject of the soul, on the subject of religion, and so on. And then what there is in truth can be brought out. But it's not easy, because when people have believed something for generations, and now you throw light on it, and it is not a snake but a rope, they are shocked. And sometimes they react in some way. It is because this Jesus, the Christ, spoke the truth. He tried to throw light on what people call truth, so that the truth, the real truth, can be known. And it was shocking. That is why they always took stones. If you shock people, they become angry. But if truth is to be said, to be given out, if light is thrown on what people call truth, and they find that, oh, it is not that, but it's something else, sometimes they become angry. When Muhammad had to say that there is only one God, not many gods, they were shocked, and they had to fight him. But he threw light on the religion, on the traditions. When Elijah had to say, there is one God, the prophets of Baal had to fight him. A lot of people are like that, even in this generation. People believe things which are unfounded, unrealistic, untrue. When you throw light on it and the truth comes out, it is difficult to believe, because they've believed the untruth for so long. See this example. If somebody comes with a new language, let's take, for example, English, and we have local languages, we have our own languages we speak all over the world, and there comes this one language you call English. Now, anywhere English is picked up, by and by we realize that the tone of the local language enters the English. So it's a mixture of English and local language. Sometimes we even mix the words. So the old is always seeking to continue, and the new is also coming to establish. So when the English was brought to people in other places of the world, right now, when somebody is speaking from, let's say, India, the tone tells you this is Indian, even though he's speaking English. If an African is speaking English, right away, it is easy to tell this is African speaking English, Ghanaian speaking English. Yes, because the tone enters the language which has been brought. So when truth is brought, the existing untruth mixes with it and makes it difficult to have the pure truth. And always there is the resistance to pick the new. It's not so easy for people, and we know it. So Jesus the Christ, in the first place, people have gotten it wrong about his personality. Then about his teachings. He was such an evolved soul. But he was a soul like everyone else. But souls are in evolution towards their source. And where he had gotten, yes, that made him exceptional because he had realization of the truth. He had to grow up like any other child. And just as you see people sometimes showing different characters, sometimes becoming angry, sometimes becoming sad, sometimes very anxious, he passed through the same. He's like you and me. But his level permitted him to yearn for a re-entrance into the source. Just as most of you are yearning, seeking. Because of that, when you are sincerely seeking, then the Great Spirit, the source, will notice it. The source will draw nearer. The source will help you out. Now, Jesus the Christ, in the very first place, he wasn't called by the words Jesus. The name that was known in Palestine about that personality is not Jesus. In actual fact, it was Yeshua. Yeshua. Now, he also needed to perfect himself. So he went into the desert side for 6 weeks, and he also saw the need to approach John the Baptist for his blessings, called a baptism. That was a Jewish tradition. He passed through it. Then with the fasting process, he finally detached from the bondage to the lower frequency of this world. So he perfected himself through practice. Most people in this generation don't seek the perfection because they just accept that they are sinners and Jesus, the Christ, came to die for them. Most of these conceptions are untrue. Keep listening and you will understand a lot. The truth is that even Jesus needed to fast to perfect himself. So when he achieved that perfection, then he wanted to share it, because when you attain it, you have compassion for the others. You have love for the others. You want the others to also know it. When he attempted to teach them the truth, they will always take stones to stone him. Because what nonsense are you telling us? They saw it as nonsense. They wanted to continue believing the traditions of the Jews. The traditions of the Jews. He wanted them to go beyond traditions. He wanted them to approach the realization, because he got it. He got it himself. He wanted to teach how to arrive at it. But people were not ready. The people had believed that there is a God. The prophets have helped them to come to believe in one God. That is wonderful. But that one God, they believed he is somewhere in space. And he's in a magnanimous position like a chair, seated. And he rules over all the world, rules over all the souls. Jesus the Christ, by his realization in the 6 weeks, he knew all these are untrue. They believe that this God punishes sinners and benedicts those who do good. Jesus the Christ was throwing this over the board, and the people were angry because the truth is actually different. They were not allowing him to pronounce the truth, to say the to bring the truth to them. Usually it's not so easy. So people always wanted to keep their pride in whatever they hold. They believe in Jehovah. You know, they push the human nature on God. So just as humans have these forms, having limitations in staying in a house, a room, a place, so somewhere in space, God is sitting there. The realization doesn't say these things. It is human nature we are pushing on God. He's beyond these things. Whatever the senses are telling us, he is even beyond names. He is beyond forms. Yes. In the evolution of religion, we can come to the point where we accept him as having form or having formlessness, but he's beyond both, because the true nature of God is beyond polarity. Polarity means things and their opposite. So form and formless. Form and formless are opposites, and he is beyond opposites. That is the wonder of God. So it is not the followers of formless God. It is not the followers of God in form, but the reality is beyond the two. Why? Because he is beyond polarity. And this is the truth that Christ was bringing, and he was misunderstood. He realized it. This truth can only be realized. Don't use your five senses, because your five senses can only detect polarity, things in the zone of polarity, things which have opposites. And anything which has opposite, your senses can reach. So you can say, this is this, this is that. We have inner senses also, and it is the same. It can connect you to things which have opposite in the inner side. But the true God is beyond all polarity. Jesus the Christ is a pity when you have the realization and you remain in the zone of polarity. you can't be understood. You can't be understood, even though you have realized the truth. This is what happened to him. The Jews spread the information that here is a man who has come. He claims he is the Messiah spoken of by the prophets. Meanwhile, he's he's throwing away the laws instituted by Jehovah. So law and order he's throwing away. So they spread hate. They spread hatred against him. Because for their traditions, for their beliefs, don't venture. And that was the message to Jesus Christ. Don't you dare. They will hold on to these beliefs. And they will see you rather as a demon. That is their beliefs. But the truth is the truth. And no matter what, given time, truth will come out. So, brothers and sisters, you need to evolve. You need to grow. Because even Jesus Christ, he went through a process for his perfection to be concluded. He did it in 6 weeks. Now, that was the level he was in that permitted him to just complete it in 6 weeks. Other souls who are beginning, who yearn, they can also go through processes longer than 6 weeks. That is the truth. It's like the school system. When he came, he already had all the elementary things within him. He already had secondary school things within him, and he just went to university and completed. If you are in class 1, then you have to really be humble and learn. And finally, where he got to, you can also get there. He never said he is the only Son of God. These are also untruths about his personality. When the disciples and others around who were surprised about the miracles, they called him the Son of God. He corrected them by saying, yes, Son of Man. The reason was to let them understand that he's also flesh and blood like them. So to inspire them, not to say he's doing these things because he's extraordinary, he's the only Son of God capable of doing that, and so on. The stories about how he was born, but you go to the scriptures, in the same Bible, Old Testament, even in the New, it is mentioned that there was a Prince of Peace who came many, many years during Abraham's time, and he was called Melchizedek. And he didn't pass through woman or man. And he also vanished from the world just as he came. He did a lot. He was like the spiritual master of Abraham. And the Bible calls him Prince of Peace. Now, if Prince of Peace is only one, then how come the Bible has another Prince of Peace? The truth is that I will be demonstrating this on the blackboard very soon so that you can understand the nature of truth. The whole truth has been misconstrued. His teachings are misrepresented. Why? Because even the disciples were afraid of the teachers of the Jewish tradition. The teachers of the Jewish religion, they were held like, in our ancient time when we had even shrines, even the emperors and kings were always kowtow to the priest because he is in communication with the gods. The same way, the Jews held great respect for the teachers of the law, the teachers of their tradition. And they had fear of them. Followers of the shrines were afraid of the priests, the fetish priests. In those days, they were afraid of them because he could even curse you. So the traditions in Israel at that time, the people were afraid of their leaders, their teachers, the rabbis, or rabbis, if you choose to call them. So, out of this fear, even the apostles, the disciples of Christ, they had difficulty separating the truth that Christ brought from the traditions. So they had to let everything be mixed with the tradition so that it could be accepted by the Jews. It was mixed with untruth because the truth really brought out the untruth very clearly. And anytime it was done, the people became angry and picked stones because they saw it as abomination, blasphemous, for someone to come and say that the belief system, something was wrong with it. So they were not allowing Christ. And in the long run, well, they had to show the way out for him. And is all because it was a tough challenge between the truth and what they believed. The apostles, after about 30 years, when Christ left, it was about 30 years to 32 years when they recorded the New Testament. But they came to agreement that they had to put it in such a way that the Jews will accept it. So, in actual fact, they had to leave out things which were confronting their beliefs, and then highlight things about Christ that will be acceptable to the Jews. So the personality of Christ, a whole lot was changed, because for salvation, the Jews believed if you have sinned, then you have to be punished by Jehovah. And in order for you not to be punished by Jehovah, you have to do sacrifices. So they will go to the synagogue, they will go to the temple and sacrifice animals and so on. And these beliefs, the apostles had to make the death of Christ conform with sacrifice to remove sin. Then the Jews will accept it, because all they were holding on to was sacrifices to stop sin, or the punishment, to stop punishment for sin. See? So, very intelligently, everything was adjusted in such a way that the Jews will accept it, so that his death is the supreme sacrifice. And that one the Jews were accepting. And a whole lot was spoken about him in a manner that the Jews would accept. But the truth, very truth, is that evolution is actually individual. You evolve. Others can facilitate it. Others can encourage you forward. Others can guide you forward. But nobody can evolve for you. It's just like eating. Someone can help you by preparing the meal, serving you with the meal, but the eating of the meal is you. The evolution of Christ himself was for himself. He was in the desert for 6 weeks for his own evolution completion. He completed his own. And at the end of it, he could say, I and the Father are one. Because you go back to the source in the process. And he's encouraging you to do the same. He's encouraging you, me. We do the same. Perfect our own. But nobody perfects himself for you. If he is perfected, the way it can help you is to inspire you. To inspire you. Because he's gotten there. So it's attainable. Let us follow how he did it. And we can get there also. That is it. But it's not like, he came to die for you. These kind of things may be painful to hear, but always truth is shocking. It has been so. Even when he spoke truth, it shocked the Jews. When truth is spoken now, it will shock people. And truth is truth. It is preventing, the untruth is preventing people from developing, from moving towards the source. Why? Because they don't see how it is recommended in the Bible for self-development. All the prophets, they perfected themselves through practices. You know, in Israel, they had a high priest, and their duty, they were holding the techniques for self-perfection. If somebody was needed in the country to help with the inspired messages, inspirational messages, let me say, then we call the person a prophet. So sometimes they had to train. You remember how they trained Samuel? And then he had certain realizations. So always some doing is involved. But they had to put these things aside, because even the doings side in the traditions of the Jews was meant for the prophets, was meant for the priests, but not for the public. But Jesus was inspiring everyone that such spiritual growth is not meant for just priests. It's meant for everyone, because it has to end in salvation from bondage to the inferior energy. That is what is called, that bondage is what is called sin. And one has to come out of it. It's not those who want to be prophets that have to come out of it. In their tradition, they gave that to high priests to do, and they were doing it for those who were to become prophets. Apart from that, the masses of people were not involved. So to tell the masses of people you need to develop yourself, you need to come out of bondage, it was abomination. The only way was for them to sacrifice animals to appease God. In our traditions of the past, people were sacrificing. Even now, they do sacrifices to appease gods. But these are all the part of the elementary stages of religion, trying to relink with the source. We think the source is also like the human, so we impose human nature on that form, on that presence. And then we perform rituals and so on to appease the God. We think he becomes angry. It was the Jewish traditions saying Jehovah is jealous, Jehovah angry, and all that. But the true God is beyond anger. He's beyond jealousy. He's beyond these things. These are part of the lower frequency. And we have come into lower frequency zone. So it is something confronting us, not God. The true God is beyond polarity, anything which has opposites. So love and hatred, he is beyond that. Friend and enemy, he is beyond that. All these things are here only. And sometimes we are calling on him to strike our enemy. These are unfortunate. Who is enemy? When you are in the inferior energy down here, everything has opposites. It's normal with the system because that is the zone you have come to. Get out of this zone, be saved out of it, and there is no opposites. Anything you experience outside of this is fully expanded into God. So when it is love, it is fully expanded love. Perfect love. Peace, perfect peace. Imagine someone who is in perfect peace. How can he be angry? How can he be jealous? You don't know what you're talking about when you talk of God as being angry, being sad. It's unfortunate. These are traditions of the Jews, belief systems. No. I will explain some things. There is a board here. I will be explaining some things to you so that you can get what I'm speaking about clearer. You see, so much attributed to Jesus as what his very person is, and attributed to him as his teachings. It's never so. It has been sort of woven to make it acceptable for the Jews. And this was done in 30 years after he died. It took 30 good years. They were weaving the whole thing to suit, to be acceptable to the Jews. Now I know some of these things will shock you. If you drink dirty water, you get sick. If you hold anger, you get sick. If you hold anxiety within you, you get sick. So the sickness is not a punishment of some God. The God definition of God is not involved with punishments. But you are living in a zone of polarity, and you attract to yourself according to how you position yourself in this polarity. And when the things are happening, they are normal for this zone. And it is not because he is calculating and giving you punishment and giving you pluses here and there. No. He's just offering the energy that makes these things function. His very presence is innocence. When you see a baby, because it's a new spirit entering, the baby is so innocent until it takes breath. And even when he takes breath, he's still innocent to some extent until mind comes in. This objective mind comes in to tell good and bad, likes and dislikes, accepting and rejecting. So when these things come in, that is where the trouble begins. Then the innocence of the child goes away. But he came from innocence. He or she came from innocence before mind came in and all that. So the source of that soul, the source is innocence. Involving in this world, and you lose the innocence. And that is where pluses and minuses, pain and enjoyment, they are part of this zone, and they are not the nature of God. Don't push human nature on God. People have done it since time. And when Jesus the Christ came, the experience he had of the truth, the reality, the realization he had with that which is beyond polarity. And for that matter, he had to confront people who have believed in the polar aspect of existence. Yes. I'm getting on the board to explain a whole lot to you so that you can understand this message very well. Beloved brothers and sisters, yes, I want to explain some things about the truth so that you can appreciate it, you can refresh on it as against what is or what has been untruth. In the first place, just as you see everything having life, evolving, growing. Evolving means it starts from somewhere and grows and grows and grows and grows to reach a certain state. So our souls found in this world are passing through evolution, changing. But then, what are we to become? We're just to become what we were before we came here. So we go back to union with the source. This zone, as I have told you, is the zone of polarity. That is where two-ness, that is positive, negative, male, female, day, night, happiness, distress, and so on and so forth. Now, in the process of trying to go back, mankind passes through 3 stages. The stage 1 is called ritualistic. That is where, like what happened in Israel, Moses and all the people, they were doing rituals. They would send sheep and goats to the altar in the temple to appease God. Jehovah. Yes. Don't say it is nonsense. What goes on in class 1, we don't say it is nonsense. But the only thing is, one has to grow. He has to reach class 2, class 3, class 4. If he doesn't go to the next class, that is where the problem is. So generations, we should be growing, moving away from class 1 to class 2, from class 2 to class 3. When the seed germinates, something is moving away from the seed. It came from the seed source, but then it's moving away. It becomes, first it shoots the roots, then becomes a stem, branches, leaves, flowers, fruits. So everything is growing. So the very first stage is because we think God is like human being and we go through suffering, so we have to please him with rituals. When we do, what we mean is that something precious must be given to him. And we think the most precious thing is life. So living things should be given to him. So we kill and offer it to him. And even initially, the attributes we give to God makes us give certain attributes, and then we call it by a particular name and give it particular form sometimes, particular name, and that limits God to that. So it becomes a God with a small g. So we have our own God, somebody has his own God, other group has their own God. But all that rituals go on to appease, to please these gods, so that the punishment they have for our sins will have salvation. They will just be pleased and forgive us. The same rituals will attract, it's a law. You give something, something is received. Because you breathe out, then you breathe in. So you give, then you will receive. But these are laws of the creation. It doesn't have to be somebody sitting somewhere meticulously following it and guarding it and making it happen. It's a laws in this zone. So if you give good, good comes. You give bad, bad comes. So you don't give bad and then go and do a ritual so that the return bad should not come. These are all ignorance. Prevention is better than cure. So why do you do that bad thing and then go for rituals to please a God? Let's come to the next stage. As mankind evolves in consciousness, then the natural temptation is that we want to feel the presence of that God. Therefore, just as we have humans and they separate from us, some are far away and some are near, and we can relate to those who are near, therefore, our God must also come near to us So we think he's far away somewhere, and we call upon him, he has to come. So he comes by traveling through space. So in this way, we put mythology. It's a myth. It's a myth. Total myth. So we give forms to Jehovah and the different gods. They are all having forms, but they are our imaginations. But the mystery is when you imagine something strongly, because your spirit is part of the great spirit, you are powerful. So the thing gets empowered and can actually manifest as a form. But that is not an eternal truth. It's not the eternal truth. So you can see that form which you are worshiping, which you have formed in your mind. It can even manifest for you to see. Still, it is not the truth. It's not a perfect truth. It's a temporary manifestation because you believe it. So it's a cup you have taken to the Great Spirit and he has filled it with energy, and then it becomes alive. And then you think, that is my God. But the true God is beyond all these things. Now, so mythology becomes the second level where we are enforcing forms onto God, because we are putting human nature onto God. It's just like us in these forms. But whether formless or form, he is beyond the two, because things which have opposite, he is beyond. And that is the mystery. It has to be realized. And then when you realize it, nobody has to tell you. Now, so the last thing, when you go through the ritualistic and mythology, then you finally come to realization. And the realization, it dissolves forms and names. Forms and names are dissolved when you enter the realization. Forms and names belong to this zone only. I'm telling you the truth. The human nature, we have forms and names. It doesn't mean God has form and name. Why? Because you can even tell that always it is people who give name to somebody. So if before only the great one was there, before everything came, who called him the name? What was his name? Who called it? Who was there to call him? It is this zone where we have many manifestations. Then we can differentiate things by calling them names. So it's we who give him name. Jehovah, Yankopon, Adonai, and any Nyakekahon. Whatever. So, brothers and sisters, realization is our goal. We are evolving, so finally we get to realization, and to dissolve all forms and dissolve formlessness, because you can't use the senses, the mind. It goes beyond mind. Spirit is beyond mind. That is the point to realize. If you believe something, you existed before the principle of or the process of believing. So who are you? The baby existed before beginning to think and believe. And then we tell the baby what to believe. So in actual fact, one exists, one is older than believing. You are there before believing. But who are you? And that realization we call self-realization, and it coincides with God realization. And that is where one says, I and the Father are one. The mission of Jesus the Christ, this is a true message, but difficult to give it because people believed God is of the same nature as human. No, it's beyond it. Now, initially they were doing these ritual sacrifices to appease God. Now that they give him form, mythology, then worship to appease him, so that he blesses us, so that he sets us free, so that we don't get punished, and so on. See, sometimes things given to class 1 will be what they can understand. When Jesus gave the prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Where he says, don't lead us into temptation. Is he the one leading you into temptation so that you tell him not to lead you into temptation? Many of the things Christ spoke have been made to conform with the Jewish belief system. The words are not exactly what was spoken. I have to tell you, a lot in the New Testament, a lot, they are made so that Jews will accept. That's all. But that's not exactly the truth. So worship is also made to appease God. We take him like the way we have kings and so on. So it pleases him when we are worshiping him, and so on and so forth. Brother and sister, it is just something you do psychologically helping you, because that period you slow down on your pride because you see yourself approaching a king. And as you slow down your pride, then it's good for you. But what you are doing is not actually the truth itself. It is helping you because it slows down your ego, false identity. So you slow down in the presence of a king. The way we bow down before a king, you do that. It helps you because psychologically your ego comes down. And when your ego comes down, you have the chance of being lifted. So it's part of the evolution process. So I'm not against it, but I want to tell you what the truth is so that you set it as a goal to reach. But don't think you have reached just because you worship him, just because you perform sacrifices. Transcending that and coming to worship, you see it as the end. No. The end is realization. So that is why you need to continue with determination to seek. Determination and humility. I always tell you, determination and humility, these are the keys. Be humble. Truth is kept away from people who think they have come to the end. Even those in sacrifices, ritualistic stage, they think that is all. And they hold on to it as their religion. And you come to worship site, they hold on to it as the end of everything. The funny thing is always anywhere you turn your consciousness, something will be reasonable for you. You see, that is a mystery in this zone. So the one with the shrine, when you go into it, analyze properly, you see greatness there and you think it's all that is worth or worthy of being done. If you come to the worship side, you can analyze, and it's so reasonable. But do you remember this point? That reasoning and logic is part of the mind. And you transcend the mind to reach realization. So all the reasoning finally becomes zero when you come to realization. Reasoning, you are still inside the cage. You come outside it in your freedom, no need for any reasoning because you have realized the truth. So if you reach the truth itself, no reasoning. It is beyond mind. You reason with mind and you transcend mind. If you transcend mind, where is the reasoning? So arguments and reasoning and all that, the philosophies and all that, you transcend it all, come into the realization of the truth. And that is the mission of the Christ. And it wasn't understood. Now, in the beginning, people believed in many gods. And because of polarity, there will be gods and demons. Because we have day and night, rainy season, dry season, likes and dislikes, friends and enemies. So gods and demons. Why are you surprised? It's a zone we are in. So these things are there. But when we're talking of God, don't compare to these things. You transcend gods and demons. You transcend all these things. Yes. So when the evolution is going on, we come to one God. And that one God, we give him form and attributes, or we say he's formless. Sometimes people think God is formless. And some people think God has form. But that is also in the zone of polarity. So argument between the two, day and night, form, formless, go beyond. The truth is fantastic. And there's very few who can go beyond. That's why Christ said, the way can be broad and more will move on that, but the way that leads home. It's very narrow. Very narrow. It's not the masses. Psychologically, we think when more people are involved in something, that means it is true. All these are psychology. It's mental problem. If more people are doing something, it means it is good. No? Very few people really try to understand Christ. And the plenty were holding on to the Jewish religion, Jewish traditions, and yet the truth was with Christ, Jesus the Christ. It is the evolution. So the prophets were leading them gradually through the ritualistic to the mythology, but to realization, it was reserved for Messiah. Realization reserved for somebody who completes his evolution. Once he completes it, he connects, and then he gives guidance how to do it. So he's great. Never look down on him. But the definitions given him and the accolades and so on, where he has reached is perfection. Therefore, he doesn't require something to increase his greatness. Not a name, not worship. He wants you to have the realization, and you can do greater than even he came to do. He said it. People read over it and they pass because they think, no, only you, the Son of God. Only you, the Son of God. All these are things which were prepared so that the Jews will accept Jesus the Christ. So the apostles, the disciples, they had to weave the two together. His reality had to be turned around for the Jews to accept. And they could only accept somebody who also has these same beliefs of God in form. When Jesus the Christ attained realization, as I said, realization dissolves name and form. It dissolves all those. So he's beyond the names you call him. It is just belief. But whatever you believe strongly, that is given you. It's your cup. You have come to collect water. And they fill it for you. The Great Spirit fills it for you. But in truth, it is not that. So anyway, one God with form and attributes that is more advanced than many powers or gods and demons. So certain prophets, certain saints, certain realized persons, people who were advanced, they advocated for one God, and some became another problem. Some give him form and attributes, and some give him formless. You see? But I've come to tell you that the two are also yet not the truth. You will go beyond the two, because the true God cannot be captured by our senses as a form, and is also not formless. And you can't imagine something that is not form and is not formless. But only when you have realization, then you realize it. And that is the truth. It's not to be taught with mind. You transcend mind, go to spirit, and you realize who God is or how he is like. Don't use your mind to try to say he's like this, he's like that. Even the person who has realized this, he throws off form at any time, form and name. He's beyond it. Whilst Christ was on the planet and he was called Yeshua, and later he's being called Jesus, if you do that sincerely, that spirit that has realized and sort of merged into God, he just is the same source, sends the energy down, and what you are expecting, if you expect him in a baby form or child form or old form, young, adult or bearded, whatever you think of him, he makes it for you, produces it for you. He appears in that form. You know the story of Saint Anthony. He meditated on the baby Jesus and meditated on that with strong faith. And before he realized, the baby was on his arms, his hands. Yes. Thoughts and feelings, when they come together strongly, then something will be given. It's an energy flow, and it will fill what you have presented. So forms and all those can be seen, not that you can't see. If you want to see a form in a certain way, if you want to see Christ, he's gone beyond form and name. But if you want, he will present it, because that is what you have come to him with. And he's not separate from God. So it's God who is actually responding in that way. So the individuality, individual human you call Jesus Christ, is now God. Is now God. Why? Because realization brings you to oneness with him. Yes. It doesn't mean he's formless, and it doesn't mean he's having form, but that state, if you realize it, it is omnipotent, omnipresence, and omniscience. And out of that, anything can be created in the zone of polarity. Yeah, brothers and sisters. So the last stage after, first we have gods to worship, to perform rituals to. Then we come to one God, and there we have divisions. People seeing him with form and attributes, and then the formless. But all that, we still go beyond. Then we come to one God, beyond form and attributes, beyond formless. Because formless and form are opposites, so they belong to this zone. And you go beyond it, then that is where the true God, who is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, all loving, because when he emanates love, it has no limit. Therefore, it is perfect love. Peace, perfect peace. So, brothers and sisters, there is something I want to show you on the board here, because I want you to understand the true Jesus the Christ, his message. But before you understand his message, the universal truth must be explained to you. And I've given you some outline. But watch this. The source is what we call God. And when you see anywhere there are dots, here just one dot, here 2, 3, 4, more dots, and so on, in these circles. Now, when the energy flow comes down, energy from the source moves down, then it picks identity. And that is the dot you are seeing here, one dot. Just a little identity. So that time, one is still showing so much of the nature of the source. Now the ego begins to, the self-identity, which is false. So this would have been the same as the source if there were not to be this ego or false identity. So this is not a repetition of the source. It is something else because of the dots. Now it increases, the dots increase. It keeps increasing until we get here. Plenty dots. False identity. Now, then the swing comes when the baby breathes in, out. So that time the swing goes here and the swing comes here. The swing goes to this end and comes here. Just like the way you hold a rope and with something joined to it, and it goes here and there. So the swing goes here. So the entity, the person, is tossed here and is tossed there, tossed here and there. And the identity is confused. And all over inside him is false identity. So this one doesn't resemble the source at all. Plenty of these ego things, the dots, plenty. So it has almost covered the whole person. And when it happens like that, that's where we are saying the entity is a demon. It doesn't resemble the source at all. You see? Doesn't resemble the source. But the truth is like this. When it is in this state, we also say the soul is sleeping, totally asleep, doesn't know where he is. And he does things anyhow he does. He believes things anyhow he believes. I mean, he just goes along and that is it. But then, if we want to return to the source, then we have to stop moving up, down, and hold on at the center here. So we close in and come to the center. And that is the evolution. So anyone who is evolving is coming down from inside. Coming down. So negative, positive, it doesn't swing here and there. Today very happy, another day very sad. No, he's coming to a point where he's almost balanced. So happiness is controlled, sadness is controlled, anger is controlled, everything is under control, anxiety is under control, everything. So he comes to a stable center. Now, when he comes back to this stable center, you find that a lot of the ego, the false identity, has left. So it's beginning to resemble the source. Very little dots, very little ego aspect is left in him. And in that balanced state, then the source will be sucking that soul back. So there is a feeling of the mother pulling on the baby to stand up, you see. So the soul will be going on the journey back. But it's gradual, and what you realize is that these dots, which represent the false identity, is reducing. So by the time you get here, you're so close to the source and almost resemble the source. Only just one or two things showing you have contact with the world, you see. And in fact, one who has gotten to this point where the dot is left out from him, he says, I and the Father are one. He shouts, I and the Father are one. Now, the fact that he's shouting this means it's a little separate, but it's only that it's almost fully entered. And then at that point, he says, I and the Father are one. But when he becomes one with the Father, he just enters back into divinity, just like you take a drop of water from the ocean, you take it back and drop it inside it, and it is the ocean. You see, it is the ocean. You can't pick that drop anymore. It is inside the ocean. Now, this false identity we give to ourselves, the more we are involved with false identity, the more we are going to be swung left and right. So if somebody is here, swinging to this side, if you are here, your swing will be here. If you go far, then the swing goes very far. So you have a lot of false identity within your system. And when you come here, it is also close to that. There will be some more. Let's see. It's almost like this one, but still we have some little freeness, or the load. The load on you is less. The load on the one here is very heavy. Now, as you approach the middle, then the load gets lighter and lighter, lighter and lighter. No? But when you get to the middle itself, then it's more relieving. And a person who has read this side cannot be sick, because it's now in alignment with the source. And source is sucking you. Source is affecting you. Source is connected with you more, in tune with you. So when it's in tune with you, there's no sickness. When it's in tune with you at this stage, then you are free and you can grow faster. So this is the way. That's why the Christ, when he got here, he said, I am the way. See? So nobody actually gets to the source unless you come to this central point. But it's individual. See, you are evolving. You are also to reach that stage and say the same thing he said. When you get to that stage, you say the same thing he said, because you realize the same thing he realized. This is the truth. The other souls, if you get here, the other souls, you can tell them, yes, unless you come through me here, you can't go. You cannot go to the source. Come to the center here, and then you go to the source. When you are here, you are empowered. You are empowered. When you are here, there's so much peace, because you are in alignment with the source. See? Those here are not in alignment. They keep flowing with the rhythm of life. Goes here and there. The seasons toss you up and down. Today happy, tomorrow sad. But when you are here, time doesn't change your mood. You are relaxed inside you. As despite what is going on externally, you are balanced. And in that balance, you are actually on the way. Nobody goes to the Father except through the Son. You see, what does Son mean? Son is one who resembles the source. When you are like this, do you resemble the source? You are filled with ego. You are filled with false identity. You don't resemble the source. Son is the one who has reached here. Everyone is a child of God, but when you are filled with false identity, then you don't resemble him. When you come to the middle here, you begin to resemble him. See? So the here and there should all merge into this point. It should be dissolved or merged. You flow closer and closer, and all your hormones will be balanced. And there cannot be anger. There cannot be fear. Whatever little ego identity is left in you, you can only use it in service by pulling the others that they should come. This is the way. Let's go. See, that statement, anyone who gets here resembles the source, and it's a son. It's symbolic language. It's just something for all. It's an icon word for everyone who gets here. I'm telling you the truth, brothers and sisters. So, I know you are getting the understanding if you are listening carefully. You understand this. And Jesus the Christ, he said, nobody goes to the source except through me. If he says, if you listen to me well, you follow me, you do greater than I came to do. So, the greatest thing he came to do is to guide people to the source. And if you can do greater than he came to do, what does it mean? That means you can also come to this point and declare the same he declared. The same he declared. You can also get there and declare it. Otherwise, what is the meaning of you can do greater? It means you can guide more souls to come through you also. But this was difficult for the Jewish tradition to absorb. Too difficult. So he left this message, but up to today, it's not understood. But it's only that it goes well with the Jewish tradition, and therefore scholars of language, they also made things worse when they translate. They too don't understand the whole subject of Christ, Jesus. So they had to make it the way they think. First of all, the apostles and other disciples, they had a lot of difficulty going around the teachers of tradition in the Jewish system. And they had to adjust everything out of fear. When the Holy Spirit came on them, as it is mentioned, what does that mean? The truth of the matter is they were in the room for 30 days, and all they were doing was to come into alignment with the source. But they entered that zone. They entered that zone, but quite not fully, let me tell you, not fully stable inside the zone. There are many who gets there and they shake up and down, but they don't go far. They are inside it because of hidden beliefs that they found it difficult to let go. Traditions, beliefs. They believed that the Gentiles, Samaritans, Pharisees, and the rest, the Jewish tradition, saying these people are untouchables. They cannot even be brought to God. God's message is not for them. All these beliefs in circumcision and other things, if you don't have it, Jehovah throws you away. I mean, you don't. But all these kind of things are not true. Because these zone things going on are just based on the laws of the zone. But it has nothing absolutely to do with the true God. It's the zonal things which are going on. And you will leave the zone to have full realization. So, what about all that? So, sometimes they fall in their alignment with the source, and that time they are like possessed. And it's like the Holy Spirit, as we call it. Alignment means Holy Spirit, because that time you experience so much freedom from bondage of up, down. Now you are here. But that zone, they were not fully established inside it to rise. So they were shifting up and down, but they had to do service. They had to remain inside to do service. So occasionally they will be still fasting to make it stable. You could even see Peter later on fasting, and one day he heard a voice when a piece of cloth, white cloth, came and some animals on it and all that, and a voice speaking to him. He was fasting. That means they had not yet stabilized the perfection. The perfection wasn't stable. They got there, but it's shaky. And because of deep-rooted beliefs, and that one of the beliefs was shattered from Peter. He never knew that all the entities, all the people in different countries, different, whether Gentiles, whether they are all from the same one source. They never believed. They never believed. He thought God brings his children, and the other people, they are from which other God? Are they two gods, brothers and sisters? So the truth even was difficult for them. So they were not very stable in the alignment. They were shaky. Because when Christ got in alignment after the 6 weeks in the desert, when he got in alignment, he never got shaken out of that alignment, because he never entertained egocentric beliefs, something that differentiates him as a Jew from others. These are all ego things, because spirit is not a Jew. Spirit is not a Ghanaian. Spirit is not a black. Spirit is not a white. So they were still holding those kind of deep-rooted beliefs. And because of that, they were hovering, they were not very stable in that. You see? Yes. So brothers and sisters, the last thing I would like to explain to you about Jesus Christ is that when there is something we call inner connection, when one comes to the alignment here, if you are not in the alignment, your connection with the source is like a very thin thread. Let me put it here. Here is okay. Let's say this is your head or a human head. Yes. Then it is like a thread of energy from the source. When you are here, there's very tiny link he has with you. When you come here, when you are closing in here, this is strengthening and it's becoming thicker and thicker link from source to you, to your soul. Then by the time you become stable here, it is like that. The whole thing is on you fully, you see. And that was the realization the apostles had after 30 days. And you remember they also went through practice to try to perfect, place themselves in a receptive state. That is the alignment state. You see. So, brothers and sisters, when one is in full alignment like that, then the energy on you from the source is so huge that you feel like you are one with him already, one with her, him, because he is beyond opposites. So it's neither he nor her. So that is the source itself. It's beyond polarity. So this is something I want you to understand. So when Christ got to that state, then he wanted to help other people. He wanted everyone to hear, the Jews, the people of Nazareth, and so on. But how prepared were they? How prepared? And it's no wonder truth is always very challenging. Truth can be shocking, but it is the truth, brothers and sisters. So today, the message is because we are in Christmas. I wanted to let you understand something about Jesus the Christ. He did come on the planet. His personality and his teachings have been totally mixed up with Jewish religion and tradition. But everything he brought was spirituality, pure spirituality. It's beyond mind. How to get disentangled mind and body. The thread that binds us to the low frequency is through the mind. So you need to sever it and set your spirit free from such bondage. And you'll be blissful, pure joy. You can't explain it. You only have to reach it. So seek, and you will find.